Hey guys, welcome back to Online Learning with Ms. Gutierrez. Now we are moving on to lesson 95. We're going to be talking about volume of a right solid. So if you remember a few weeks ago, we actually started this whole volume process whenever I brought the sugar cubes and you guys made your own little sugar cube prism. So in that lesson though, we really only did the volume of a prism. Today, we're going to talk about prisms and cylinders and how you can use the same formula for all of them across the board to help you find the volume, okay? So let's just review real quick what we did with the sugar cubes. So with the sugar cubes, you formed a prism somewhat like this, okay? And then we said that in order to find the volume, you would have to multiply the length times the width times the height. So for example, if this was 5, this was 2, and this was 4, you would be multiplying 5 times 2 times 4, okay? Another way of looking at this would be saying, okay, if I'm finding the 5 times 2 part, that's actually telling me the area of the base, which in this one, the base happens to be a rectangle. If I come over here and just kind of draw it out, the base is a rectangle. So I'm first finding the area of that base and then multiplying it by the height. So that's actually what finding volume is doing. Volume of any prism or cylinder is just finding the area of the base. So area of the base times the height. Okay? So let's look at what that looks like for some other figures. Let's start with one that looks like this. So this is where I would say, who can tell me what shape this is? And somebody would raise their hand and say, triangular prism. And I would be like, you're right, good job. See, I told you guys I was gonna do this a lot. Okay, so we can identify our values, 3, 4, 5, okay? So let's say that those are the measurements that were given. So like we just said, volume is found by multiplying area of the base times the height. Be careful in triangular prisms, okay? Because here's what I'm gonna tell you everybody always does, and I see this over and over and over again, okay? So this is your warning. The base here is not this rectangle on the bottom like it was in the last one, okay? Because the definition of a base in a prism is a side that has a congruent parallel side. So that we see happening with our triangles here, okay? So our triangles are actually our bases. So the triangle is the base, okay? Super duper important. That is gonna be true in any triangular prism, okay? So don't forget that. The triangle is your base. So that means when we're finding the area of the base, we're finding the area of the triangle. Okay, so I'm actually gonna shade that in a little bit just so that it's clear that that is the base. So to find the area of a triangle, we have to remember to use the proper formula. So area of a triangle is always gonna be base times height. And then remember that triangle is actually half of a full rectangle. So it's always base times height divided by 2. So let's plug those values in. We've got a base of 4, a height of 3, and then we're gonna divide that by 2. So 4 times 3 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is gonna give me 6. I'm running out of room, can y'all see that? Oh, yep, okay. And then the height we see is just the distance that connects the bases. So distance connecting bases. Okay, so we always think about height as being vertical, right? Like being up and down. But sometimes, depending on the way that these shapes are laying, the way that they're oriented, it's going to look sideways, or it's going to look like a length or something, okay? But if you remember that the actual definition of the height here is the distance connecting the bases, or the distance between the bases, then we know that that 5 fits that definition, okay? So we're actually multiplying what we got for our area, which was 6, times a height of 5, which gives us 30, and this was actually in centimeters, so it would be 30 centimeters cubed. Don't forget this, okay? On the tests, well, let me get it to where you can see it. Some of you guys on area were putting cubed, and some of you on volume were putting squared, so be careful. Remember, area always has a squared, volume always has a cubed, okay? So just try to keep those straight. All right, we're gonna look at one more figure, and then we're done. I know, this one's much shorter than less than 94. That one was kind of a doozy. All right, so now we are going to talk about this, which I would say, who can tell me what shape this is? And somebody would raise their hand and say, it's a lopsided cylinder. And I would say, yay, very good job. Okay, so let's look at the measurements. We know that the diameter of this right circular cylinder is 20. Remember, diameter goes all the way through the middle, okay? So this whole thing right here is going to be 20 centimeters, and the height is going to be 25 centimeters. Volume formula is still the same. Area of the base times the height. Okay, in this figure, our base is, you guessed it, a circle. So, circles can be found, the area of a circle can be found by taking pi times r squared. Okay, so pi, we're going to use an estimate of 3.14, okay? And then we're going to use our radius, which if we're given the diameter of 20, the radius is always going to be half of that. So half of 20 is 10. So it's going to be 10 squared. Okay, then we can go ahead and plug in our height, which is 25. Remember, height is the distance connecting the bases. So the 25 connects my two circles. All right, so now let's simplify. We always think order of operations here. We start with our exponent. 10 squared is 100. So then we still have times 3.14 and times 25. So 3.14 times 100 is going to be 314. 314 times 25. Oh, they left it in terms of pi. I probably should have done that. They left this in terms of pi. Let me just show you what that looks like, actually. Let me back up real quick so I can show you what that looks like. They said, hey, we're not going to plug in 3.14 here. We're going to plug in pi. We're going to keep it as pi, and we're just going to simplify as much as we can. So then from here, they just multiplied the 25 and the 100 and got 2,500 pi. Okay, and that's still going to be centimeters. And remember, volume is always cubed. Awesome. And that's it. So just a reminder about the warnings. Area of the base is always measuring the actual base. So whatever the shape is that's parallel to each other. So if it's a triangular prism, you're talking about the area of the triangles. If it's a cylinder, you're talking about the area of the circles, okay? And then the height is always the distance between the bases. Now go do your homework.